Thank you, Chair. Minister, thank you for being here this morning. And at the outset, I want to say the issues that we're raising today, myself and Senator Craughwell, predate your tenure as Minister for Transport, so I appreciate you coming in, but they are current issues. Chair, we've been raising these concerns in the Seanad for months. The process to award the tender for the new search and rescue contract, to my mind, is utterly flawed. The exclusion of the Irish Air Corps because they had suggested they would use an Augustin Western 89 helicopter, and then the subsequent awarding of the contract to somebody using an Augustin Western 89. The bid evaluations was all over the place. The winner was only not more expensive, but we all know that they have reputational delivery issues in their contracts in the Netherlands. You're aware the incumbent took the High Court case to pause the awarding of the contract, but the judge refused to do so on the basis that to do so would cause a risk of life to Irish people. So maybe he was right. During the Oireachtas committee hearings over the last couple of months, we have invited the ministers, the Secretary-General, senior officials in charge of the tender, Andy Evans, who excluded the Irish Air Corps and who ultimately evaluated the tender bid of the Irish Air Corps. But the Secretary-General of the Department has refused permission of all of those people to attend the Oireachtas committee to talk about the process. The incumbent CHC is due to leave the service in June 2025 after the transition to the new service provider, Bristow. However, what really concerns me today about this transition is that I'm reliably informed that the Bristow have looked to take CHC staff in advance of that transition to the first base of October 2024. I'm also reliably informed that Bristow have issued CHC a legally worded agreement to sign, which means that the numbers that they're looking to transfer to Bristow equates to 80% of the staff of one of our 4 bases. Now, I think that really should concern us. Anybody that knows anything about search and rescue would know that that poses a serious risk to the current incumbent and therefore a serious risk to life. And any operator that would be expected to maintain, or how any operator would be expected to maintain a service when 80% of their staff in one base has been taken off them. I think it's really, really bizarre and really, really scary. Normally a new operator would come with a transition team, but I think it's clear to me by the request of Bristow to CHC that they don't have a transition team and are quite happy to put the current service in jeopardy. Sorry, Chair. Excuse me.
Senator Craughwell. Thank you, Les Carroll. Minister, you were spokesperson on defence in a former government. The notion that a country would not have sovereign capability in search and rescue is repugnant to any reasonable person. The Irish Air Corps put a 415-page document together as part of their bid to take just one base. We wanted CHC to hold, or the SAR operator to hold 3 bases and the Air Corps to take just one base. As it now turns out, the predictions that I made to the Minister, both of them, who both wrote to me and said to me that they did not know what's going on, but they trusted the public service to do a good job. And they go on about procurement rules, etc., etc. At no stage did any of us try and influence the procurement of this contract. What we did was we wanted to make sure that we had sovereign capability. If a helicopter was grounded for a reason, if the Air Corps were available, they could take that over. The bottom line on it is we finish up with the helicopters we were told were not suitable. We now have Bristow's looking for 80% of one base. That means the Irish Aviation Authority must get involved now. Somebody somewhere has to call a halt to this. We are going to finish up with lives being put at risk simply because the people involved in the procurement of this contract don't understand aviation. There is no aviator in your department. There is nobody there to advise you on aviation. At the end of the day, we now find ourselves in a situation that the predictions we were making over the last 2.5 years are coming home to haunt us. And we will find ourselves having to close a base in the not too distant future if Bristow's get their way, because you can't operate without 80% of your staff. I believe the Irish Aviation Authority need to be called in right now, and I believe, Minister, you need to call them in and ask for advice at this point in time.
Ara. So I want to thank Senator Doherty and Senator Craughwell for raising this matter today. On the 30th of May 2023, the Government approved the awarding of the next generation Coast Guard Search and Rescue Aviation Service contract to Bristow Ireland Limited. The new contract will enable the Irish Coast Guard to continue to provide world-class maritime and inland search and rescue services, environmental monitoring, helicopter, emergency, medical and air ambulance services with enhanced mission control and communication systems, and for the first time introduces a fixed wing element. The long-term next generation contract will run for 10 years with options to extend out to 13 years to 2036. The contract makes provision for the Air Corps to provide the fixed wing service after 5 years. The new contractor, Bristow Ireland Limited, was selected following an extensive and comprehensive procurement project undertaken by my department that included an initial market engagement process, a pre-qualifying process, an initial request for tender, a negotiation process and final evaluation of a best and final offer tender from the shortlisted bidders. The Chief State Solicitor's Office, with the assistance on occasion from the AG's Office, provided legal advice to the department throughout all stages of the process. An independent external process auditor provided regular written assurances to the accounting officer of the department, confirming that each stage of the procurement process complied in full with all relevant EU procurement rules and national guidance, and that the evaluation of tender submissions was conducted with the highest levels of professionalism, rigour, diligence, and was evidence-based. The new service provides for the operation of 4 helicopter bases, all on 24/7 duty. Bristow Ireland Limited will operate 6 AW189 helicopters from 4 dedicated bases in Shannon, Sligo, Waterford and Dublin Weston Airport. All bases will have enhanced crew accommodation facilities. In an expansion to the current aviation service for the Coast Guard, 2 King Air fixed-wing aircraft based at Shannon Airport will provide support for Coast Guard search and rescue operations and environmental monitoring. This will provide a 24/7 availability of 1 fixed-wing aircraft at any one time. The new aviation service will be delivered through a fleet of modern, fuel-efficient aircraft which have the potential also to reduce emissions. The new contract, in particular the fixed-wing element, will also provide the Coast Guard with an enhanced capability to monitor the maritime environment, mindful that we anticipate major investment in offshore renewable energy and a growth in continental and other international maritime traffic in the years ahead. In addition to delivering on its primary roles, the contract provides added value to the state in that the Coast Guard will continue to be equipped to support inland search and rescue, missing person searches and mountain rescue in collaboration with mountain rescue teams, as well as the provision of air ambulance and patient transfer services to the National Ambulance Service, including day and night air ambulance services to the offshore island communities, and the provision of any other emergency support or humanitarian requests that may arise. The addition of the fixed-wing element capability will greatly enhance the Coast Guard's capacity to deliver on its assigned roles. The Department and the Irish Coast Guard look forward to working closely with Bristow Ireland Limited in delivering these essential state services. The transition will be a gradual process, and the new aviation service will be introduced on a phased basis between now and July 25, with the first base not going live until Q4 2024. The Department and the Irish Coast Guard will facilitate support and expects to see an orderly and seamless transfer of operations between both contractors CHCI and Bristow. The current contract provides that the outgoing operator, CHC, enters into an exit plan and cooperates fully with the Minister and any other party in the transfer of arrangements as may be notified to him by the Minister. I also fully recognise the professionalism and dedication of all personnel engaged in the provision of this essential state service. The specialist expertise of the CHC personnel is highly valued, and the experience gained over many years in providing search and rescue and other aviation services will continue to be a valued and sought after resource. It is imperative that existing and future staff be fully appraised of employment and advancement opportunities available under the new service so as to reduce uncertainty or distraction. To that end, I understand Bristow has indicated that it will be applying the principles of two-pay provisions in transferring staff into the new operation. They are currently engaging with Forza and Unite trade unions and also with the incumbent contractor on a regular basis with a view to agreeing the modalities for the transfer of responsibility of the service, including staff in line with their respective contractual obligations. And I know I'm over time, but I'll just one second.
We want to hear the reply.
As with the introduction of any new system, challenges and risks will emerge from time to time, and it is important that systems and structures are in place to manage these risks. A new and dedicated team has been established within my department to manage and oversee the implementation of the new contract. There is regular constructive engagement with both the incumbent and the new service provider, and transition progress is being monitored formally on a monthly basis and more frequently than as required. And I wish to assure the House that during the transition phase, the continued safe, efficient and effective aviation services for the Irish Coast Guard is the overarching priority for all concerned.
Minister, there's something really worrying in your response. You're telling me that the CHC contractor has to fully cooperate with the Minister in the transfer arrangements. So are you telling me now that the Minister stands over the fact that 80% of the staff of one of our bases are going to be gone from January thereon before that base becomes fully operational in October next year, therefore putting people's lives at risk? Is that the instructions and the direction of the Minister and the Department that you say is standing over this transition? Andy Evans from Air Assurance is the man who evaluated the tender. I want to know if he scored Briscoe's transition plan with higher points than he scored CHC's transition plan. I want to know what the IAA thinks of having 80% of the staff of one of our bases gone to somebody that won't be providing a service, leaving the people who are currently providing the service null and void. And I want to know why the successful bidder is not concerned going to have to look after our service for the next 10 years at putting people's lives at risk for 10 months.
Minister, the crash of Rescue 116 left your department showing as a department that were unable to oversee the search and rescue system in Ireland. We are now in a situation where, as my colleague has pointed out, 80% of the crew of one base are about to be withdrawn for training with Bristow's. That means that base will have to close down. I am asking you today, are you prepared to call in the Irish Aviation Authority immediately? You do not have an aviator on your staff, and any team that's put together by the department to oversee this are not aviators. Will you call in the Irish Aviation Authority immediately and ask them to look at the transfer and the methodology that's been used by Bristow's in this particular instance? Lives will be lost. We've already lost 4 very brave people.
I want to thank the senators for their contributions, and I obviously always listen carefully to concerns, and matters raised will of course be carefully considered by my department during the transition phase. I think we can all agree that the provision of an effective maritime search and rescue service is critical to Ireland as an island nation with a strong maritime sector. The sector depends on the reliability and professionalism of the Irish Coast Guard and all its component parts, including the Coast Guard Aviation Service, and our citizens rely on their support for medical emergencies. To deliver on its responsibilities, there are a range of assets available to the Coast Guard, of which the fleet of Coast Guard helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft are a crucial component, thus enabling timely responses to time-critical, life-at-risk situations, as well as maritime environmental monitoring. And I strongly believe that this new contract will deliver a step change in the capability and capacity of the Coast Guard to fulfil its responsibility for the provision of Irish maritime search and rescue services. The Government welcomed the outcome of the new procurement process and has approved the awarding, as I've said, to Bristow. All relevant stakeholders are now strongly encouraged to work in partnership over the coming period to deliver a seamless and orderly transition between the old and the new contracts. And there will always be issues and challenges in introducing change and new services, and I can assure the House that there's regular ongoing engagement between my department, the incumbent contractor and the new service provider in relation to these challenges. Progress with transition planning and implementation is being actively monitored formally by my department and frequently. My department will continue to monitor and review any potential risks emerging during the transition and will also review any challenges, any mitigations or rectifications proposed by either the current or the incoming provider. And I can assure this House that the overarching priority during the transition phase is to ensure the uninterrupted provision of search and rescue and air medical support and other essential state services by the Irish Coast Guard. Thanks, Chair.